This is Sadi Phayet. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is dealing with the topic of who are you in the creative process. I come from a very large family, and most of my siblings were good at math and science and business and just general ambition. And I was the one that was passionate about creativity. I'm passionate about anything artistic or that I can put my hands to and produce something new. And so, but I didn't know why I was so creative because I was born on my oldest sister's first birthday. And so even though her gift was math and science, like she has a PhD in physics, my gifts were the opposite. I was not mathematically inclined. I mean, I did well in math, I did well in all of my subjects, but when it came to that level of commitment and passion, it was all in the creative arts. And so, and in family actually, and in nature. But we're talking about, creativity right now. Um, so recently I've become very curious about horoscopes and spirituality and just different things I hadn't considered before, and even that I had shunned because I was told when I was a religious person that astrology was not it was not a science, it was not a valid subject, that divinity trumped it. Actually, all astrology is, for those of us that are very religious and do still eschew astrology, it only has to do with the alignment of the planets at your birth. Because regardless of whether we're divine or not, we have a personality, we have a mode through which we express ourselves. We just do. And if that's too ego driven for God, I don't think so. He created us. He created the heavens and the earth. He created the universe. He knew what he was creating. He was very deliberate in everything. So to me, at this stage in my life, I think to study as much as you can about yourself is just a wonderful, wonderful journey to take. So I found out recently, I went to this website that's called Cafe Astrology, actually. And they give you a free chart if you put in your birthday and where you were born and let's see, what else? And the time that you were born will give you more information. But if you don't have your time of birth, your birthday will give you enough, right? And so the main elements that you will find are influencers in your life is first your sun sign. Your sun sign is that direct sign that you were born under. For instance, I was born in March, so my sun sign and the specific date that I was born gives me the sun sign of Pisces. And I don't know what gives me my moon sign, my rising, and my Venus, but those are the other three that are the most influential on my personality. So my moon sign is Taurus, which I didn't even know. I thought it was Sagittarius, which is what someone told me because I tend to be really bold with, the menfolk. But, sorry. But my rising is either Pisces or Scorpio. And then my Venus, which has to do with love and sex, is Aries. And we're not going to go into that, but Aries are fire signs. That's all I got to say. So anyway, but knowing that I'm a Pisces with a moon in Taurus explains so much. Even though I was raised by a Capricorn who is one of the most routinely living people on the planet, and that was my mom, having a Taurus as a moon sign, which is another earth sign and another masterer of routine, a lover of routine. Yeah, I love routine. Like, I am that type of Pisces. I love anything routine. I love tedious tasks. I'm very methodical with my creative arts. I'm methodical with how I do my children's hair, um, how I want them to dress, how I teach them, everything. It's just makes so much sense. But I never knew. I just thought I was routine because of the influence of my mother, because of her sign. But actually, I am routine because it's in me to be routine, because I have that strong Taurus influence over my Pisces. And so when my Pisces freaks out or gets overwhelmed with emotion, that Taurus is right there with me. Like, I do not, even though I have a hot temper, I do tend to, once I get it out, I'm done with it. I'm over it. I don't drag it out. I'm not mad for days unless you bring it back up. But I love knowing that about myself, because it's caused me to understand myself better. So it's been very empowering to know these things. And then let's see what else I learned. Oh, so in that same chart from Cafe Astrology, you'll see that you have a certain number of um, a certain number of elements, I guess, that are masculine and feminine within you, whether you're a male or a female. A male can have majority feminine elements, and a female can have majority masculine. I didn't know that. So out of my entire family, out of all the women in my immediate family, I have the most feminine elements. I have a number 8 feminine, 2 masculine. Most of my sisters, my brother, my father, my mother, on the female side, everybody has 3 and above of masculine. I'm the only one that has so much femininity. And I'm also the only one that does home crafts. Like, no one else in my family crochets and makes blankets and sews. No one. I'm the only one. I'm the one that serves my children their meals and cooks home cooked meals and is family oriented to the extent that I am. Out of both my sisters that have children, there's only 3 of us that have children. I'm the one that is traditional. I'm the one that does my children's hair every day for school. They hate that I'm such a doting mother, because in this generation, women don't necessarily, that's not something we're proud of anymore. But that I am that woman, as fiery as I am. Like, I'm not a punk. I'm not a punk in my life. I had 2 children, and I basically earned 3 degrees in 5 years. So I'm a badass woman, but I'm not a badass woman that's neglected my home. I'm not. So I'm just saying that to say that was just very interesting to me. And even one of my sisters was astounded that I had so little masculine energy in my chart, because I was the protector of all my siblings. I stood up to homeless men, toothless men on the bus that would try and talk to my shy sister, who has way more masculine than me. But she never would fight. I never turned down a fight. You know what I mean? So I think, though, see, that brings other things into the picture, because you're also influenced by your birth order. So the science of birth order says that usually the oldest in the family, and it does depend on how many children are in a family, how many boys, how many girls. Usually the girls follow a cue, and then the boys follow a cue. Sometimes it doesn't matter if there's only 2. But I was the second born. I was born on my first sister's first birthday. So we were the same exact sign, but born under different elements. She was the passive, sweet-natured, but totally genius Pisces, and I was the rebel. I was rough and ready. I don't give a damn. I'll curse you out in a minute. I didn't even talk until I was 10, and at 10 I had seen enough. Didn't nobody get nothing nice from me for a minute. Probably just until I got more balance as an adult. But I was mean. I was so mean. I was just always ready to scrap, right? So that's why my sister thought that I should have more masculine energy, but actually it was because I was the second of a type. And because I was the second, I was the opposite of that first. So if she had been born more aggressive, I would have been more passive. But because she was born totally passive, like totally passive, I was totally ready. Okay? So anyway, I only mention that because we're going to deal with our process as creative people when it comes to creating and it comes to artistry. Because all of that has an influence on us. So just to go into my history as a creative person, like I said, I was the only one in the family who was creative. My parents raised us in the Black Power movement, but at a certain point, my father had been a police officer for years, and I think from things he had seen women go through, they changed their tact as far as us just being down for the movement, and said they wanted us to major in practical majors for college. They really wanted us to get into engineering and science and things that would always cause us to be stable. But the thing about me is I never stopped loving the movement. I fell in love with my people. One year we went to a Kwanzaa celebration. It's just like falling in love with a man. You know it when it happens. It's like it fills you up till you can't get away from it. You know what I mean? So I was sitting on a step and the drummers were playing and the vendors had all their wear out and their families walking through the area and there's speakers speaking from the podium. It was just beautiful. It's just us, right? Big afros, dashikis everywhere. And I'm sitting there just drinking it in and it filled me up and it never left me. So, I don't know what to say. The thing that really protected me in life, though, was that in high school, we grew up in the 70s. So in high school at that time, you could learn a trade. I learned everything office, everything about being a secretary, even how to do the court reporting machine. And I excelled at it. And as a matter of fact, in my family, my parents were so strict with us and taught us so much discipline that anything any of us learn, we learn quickly and we learn it well. So my first job was not going to McDonald's. My first job was at the Sears Tower in stock options because I already typed 36 words a minute coming out of high school. And I worked that up. My father bought us a computer, and I'm not going to stay on this too long, and my mother bought me a typing program to practice my typing. So I had that up to 65 probably in a year, 65 words a minute. So I was able to take care of myself from the gate. So anyway, when it came to creativity, the reason I was mentioning all that is that my parents did not encourage it. Excuse me. My parents did not encourage it in me as far as like doing it for a career, things like that. So fast forward to the year 2000, I was in a relationship, got pregnant, had always wanted children, always wanted to be a mother, wanted to raise a conscious child, really wanted to raise a conscious boy child. And I ended up having a miscarriage. And it hurt me so bad that I lost my baby that I vowed I would never have a life where I did not take part in things that made me absolutely happy, which was creativity. I had not drawn in so long, probably since I was very young, maybe 19. I hadn't sewn since high school. I hadn't painted nothing, So the first thing I bought was a sewing machine. The second thing I bought was art supplies. I taught myself to sew. I made myself an entire wardrobe. I started drawing. One day I was walking down the street and I passed this sign in a window that said it was a fashion design school. I went inside, asked for a tour, and fell in love. I ended up enrolling. I was always on the president's list. I got straight A's in all the design classes, including fashion illustration, love fashion illustration. And from there, yeah, I just kind of exploded within myself as far as my satisfaction quotient. I've been happy with ever since, no matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing. I'm always creating, I'm always working on something, okay? Um, and I can see in that history how these elements, played a part. So, in all creative pursuits, there's a level of frustration. Either you make a mistake and have to start all over. If you're sewing, you got to rip a seam out. If you're crocheting, you got to unravel an entire row or a couple of rows. In drawing, you might have to scrap it and start all over again. It's a lot of frustration involved in it. And but what has always helped me, that I always assumed I got from my mother, I didn't know. I didn't know I was so methodical, because Tauruses are methodical people. If they have a system of doing something, that's the system they're going to use. I have a system for every creative thing I know how to do. And there's a few, okay? I sketch, I paint, I make collages, I draw Mehndi, which is you know how the Indian women, the women in India, when they get married, they get that henna, that red ink, drawn on their hand in designs. The artwork of design is called Mehndi. And I found that when I was just searching for different art styles on Google one day. I wanted to learn something new, and that was the one that pulled me the most. And so I basically did some freehand drawing with it, and you only use ink, you don't use pencil, but I loved it so much, the designs, and I'm going to show you some of the ones I've done. But I just fell in love with it. So, what was I saying? I said that to say, oh, and I also do fashion illustration from my time at the fashion school. So I just, and I use the fashion illustration and the Mehndi and then different other images for my my ebook cover designs. So yeah, I might use one of my collages. I might draw a picture just for the cover. I love being able to use different forms of art, along with anything else for something, for a project. So those are the things that I like to do. And I also like to sing, but only for me and my children, because, we won't be offended. And I don't sing like really well, just average. So anywho, now when it comes to sewing and crochet, well, when it comes to any of this, for me, that Taurus is what gives the Pisces balance in me. And so the Pisces is the inspiration. That's the part of me that receives the brilliant idea, gets excited about it, stays energized through the entire process, but it's that Taurus that comes in and buttresses the energy so that it can be something that's completed. The Taurus comes in and says, yeah, but we got to plod along. We got to get it done. We got to start at this step, go to this step, go to the next step, complete it. And I've always been that way. I've always been that way. I don't leave work unfinished ever. So when I was in the fashion design school, I wanted to learn crochet, and this was about a year and a half before I had my oldest daughter. I had her at 39. I had both my children at later ages. And I asked my advisor if she knew of an instructor that knew how to crochet. And so this woman from Poland was one of the instructors, and she had been actually acclaimed in magazines for her crochet style of different, she would do it in an artistic way and make a display. Okay, that's how good at crochet she was. She could really manipulate and do so many stitches. This woman taught me 3 stitches. This is what I'm telling you about my genealogy, about my family, how we take a little bit and go far with it. She taught me 3 stitches. A year or however long later, when I found myself pregnant, I made my first daughter 10 blankets during my pregnancy. None of them looked the same. Different colors, different designs. My best friend at that time taught me how to do a ruffle. Just some with a ruffle, some with a straight edge. Just gorgeous though. All of them gorgeous with 3 stitches that I knew how to do. I'm just saying. That's how, when I learn a little bit, I just go to it. I go at it. And now I know it's because I have a wonderful balance of inspiration and work ethic inside of me. Find out what your elements are so that you can understand how you've always been, and maybe even tweak it to embrace, strengths that you didn't know you have. You have so much beauty inside of you. If you're a creative person, you already are creating beauty. But if you had more knowledge of yourself, imagine what you could create, okay? Also, I did the same thing when I taught myself to sew, and I made an entire wardrobe. Again, nothing was the same design. I had a whole rainbow of outfits in my closet that I made myself, pants and top, everything. And then at that time, because I had just learned to crochet, I was making winter scarves. Everybody in my family was wearing my beautiful winter scarves. I mean, in my family, my sisters are bougie. They were not going to wear something that was not elegant looking, that was not beautiful, that was not soft, you know. And so, but that, the frustration level in all of that was definitely a part. I've had to cry and rip out seams, cry and undo rows of crochet because I realized I went too far on one side. Aesthetic, being balanced on a blanket is very important. So when you do even one line more than you did on the other half, you got to rip it out. You got to balance it out. You got to finish it exactly. That's what the beauty is. Now, sometimes, of course, beauty can come in a quirky, imbalanced way. Of course it can. Of course it can. That's the beauty of art. But I'm anal. That comes from the Taurus side. I like things the way I like them, and I usually stick to that. I'm very stubborn, which comes from the Taurus side. It's so funny. I'm the most stubborn person in my family. It's crazy. I just never knew. So anyway, I went to graduate school beginning in the summer or the fall semester of 2016. And at the beginning of that program, I thought I was going to study educational leadership for higher education because the times I've worked in higher education, that's just the environment I love the best. That's the type of work I like the best too. So that's what I wanted to do moving forward. But because I read so much, I've always read a lot of fiction, especially African American fiction. But another favorite of mine is British historical fiction, like Jane Austen, the Bronte sisters, things like that. Georgette Hare. For African American fiction, God, I don't want to forget nobody, but of course James Baldwin, Toni Morrison, Alice Walker, Tejake Shange, into Tejake Shange. Oh, I'm so terrible. I'm not good. This the Pisces side. I'm not good at the spur of the moment, I got to kind of write things down so I don't forget anybody, but so many. Octavia Butler for science fiction. Yeah, there's so many. It's so many. Gloria Naylor. Oh, I don't want to forget anybody, so I'm not going to try and name everybody, but yeah, African American fiction and history is my love, or two loves of mine. But anyway, back to the topic. So, what I was saying was, okay, so on a whim, because I've always read so much and I read so much still, I thought to myself that maybe one day I would write a book of fiction, just some nice story of a world I would love to create for myself. I wish that I could live, right? And so I asked my advisor if I could take a writing course, and she said sure. And so there happened to be a short story fiction course that semester, and I took it. And when I tell you I aced that class, oh my God, did I ace that freaking class. Like, my professor and my classmates could not believe I had never had a creative writing course. And I hadn't in my life, but it was just that learn a little bit and explode with it shit. And then from there I went to my advisor and said, okay, check this out. Can I have a double major? And she said, well, what it would be is a Master of Arts in Interdisciplinary Studies, where you need 36 credit hours for your master's degree. So 18 on one side, 18 on the other. I'm like, fine. So I was able to take, it didn't go that way though. I didn't do 18 because this writing thing it was in me, I guess. It's so funny how God works. It's just, yeah. You got to always be reaching, because in the reaching, God comes in and guides you in the reaching. But if you're stagnant, if you're staying in one place, if you're not reaching for something different that you've never tried, you can't grow beyond what you've ever done. I don't want to preach. I'm just saying I've been through some great experiences because of my reaching. So I just want to encourage as many people as I can, especially who are creative people. But even if you're a business genius, a scientist, whatever you are, still reach. Still reach for more. Because God's going to come right in and give you another whole new world that you never even knew existed within you. And find out what your elements are. Go to Cafe Astrology. Anywho, so I was able to take the short story fiction, poetry, advanced creative writing, creative nonfiction, which I'll explain in a minute. That was weird for me to hear that title, but creative nonfiction, screenplay, and literary journal. Literary journals are like those volumes in a library where a writer wrote into a magazine and got their writing featured in the magazine. And so the literary journal has kept track of everybody who's been featured in a magazine, whether it's Reader's Digest or whatever it is, Ebony, Jet, whatever. And they've kept track of it in a journal to say, so you can look it up, find out, oh, I heard of this author, I heard she did something in this year, look up the journal. So these days, a literary journal is an actual magazine. You can do it in print form, or you can do it solely online. And it basically does what I do on my Facebook page. It gives, what is the word I'm always using? Oh my God, I hate it when this happens. This is the Pisces side. It gives attention to new artists or even acclaimed artists, where you can submit a short story, poetry, commentary, or artwork. And it gives you exposure, is the word. It gives you exposure to a wider market. So anybody that's online can come and see the literary journal and probably pay for a subscription fee or something like that. And then they, can see who's being featured every time a new journal is made or whatever. And so I know one day I'm going to make one, because I've been wanting to make one since I graduated, or actually since I took the class. And so it ended up, when I graduated with my Master of Arts, I had taken 21 classes in writing because I loved the writing aspect so much, and 15 classes in educational leadership, which I'm still qualified to teach educational leadership, because you have to have at least 12 credit hours, I believe, and I have 15. So, and then I also have a graduate certificate in English, which is mainly English literature. So anywho, yeah, that's how I got into writing. That became a whole nother monster when you talk about the drama of creativity, but we'll get to that in a minute. Oh no, actually we're there. I had to write down, this is the 6th time I've tried to make this video, okay, for anybody listening. I'm telling you, and the only reason is that dogged Taurus stubbornness. I refuse not to complete this video. I'm very serious about my writing business, my channel, my writer's page on Facebook. I'm very serious about it. So whenever I know I have a good idea for a video, I cannot give it up until I finish it. It's crazy. So anyway, one of the biggest negatives when it comes to the creative process are blocks. Blocks, and it's not that the block itself is emotional, it's that it affects you. It affects you emotionally. When I was in my undergraduate coursework, the first art class I took, I experienced a major block. The teacher had assigned us this crazy, sadistic assignment where he had white fabric with wide black stripes on it. And then he arranged it where it like had a flow, but it caused not folds or crinkles. It just caused it to overlap. You know what I mean? So you had to, but you still had to make it look like fabric. It was the craziest thing ever. Here, and this is me as an adult learner staring at this thing for days. Because I could not fathom in my brain. I was having headaches. I could not understand how I was going to draw this. You know, it's one thing to draw a mug. Even if it doesn't come out, even if it comes out a little bit like it looks like melted melted pottery or something, okay, that could be like Salvador Dali. It's a little bit surrealist, you know. But no, not with something like fabric. For it to really capture, to really do a good job, meant I had to make it look just like it looked. That was the standard I put on myself. Because I'm crazy. Was raised by, a black Nazi. I was raised by educated people, and in black America, if you're educated and you're raising children, then you expect them to be excellent. That's pressure. And there is no option for opting out of the pressure. No, you meet the pressure, you meet the challenge. So I eventually was able to do it, but that was my first experience with having a block that I couldn't get past for some time. Fast forward to my master's degree, where I'm starting to learn that in writing, and everybody's heard of having a writer's block, but it's different when you experience that shit. Writer's block is no joke. I mean, that, the sentiment I had when I had my first writer's block was, I'm educated, but I'm not always smart. Because that shit had me locked up. I could not get past that for nothing. And so I went on Facebook on my personal page. I didn't have my writer's page at that time. And I just, put a post out saying writer's block like a mug or something like that. And my godfather, who's on my page, both my pages, and is so good to me and kind, said, he just advised me to step away for an hour and come back to it. And and I would be fine. And the thing about me is, once I'm started, even with a drawing, like for example, this is a fashion illustration drawing of mine that I used for my book, Love's Beat. Once I have the head drawn, the rest of it is nothing. The neck is nothing. The shoulders are nothing. The breast, the waist, the behind, the thighs, the calves, the feet, the arm, nothing. The hat is even nothing. As long as I got that head done. Same thing with writing. Once I can start it, I don't care if I already have the concept. I don't care if I have a title for a poem, or, well, it's mainly the stories that give me the block. I can't start it until I start it. And if my mind is fucking with me about it, I can't start it. And it's hard because I don't drink, I don't smoke weed, I don't smoke cigarettes, I don't have a man. I have no way to chill myself out so that I could just do it, except for chores. So my father, like I said, he was a black Nazi. My father was a star athlete in high school and college. He was a Marine. He was the first one in his family to go to college. So he trained us to clean the house like a Marine, like we were little Marines. Everything was you have to do it a certain way every single time. Because in the military, that's how they train them anyway. It don't matter what background you come from. When you come in here, you're going to learn this precision, right? That's how my father trained us. So even to this day, and I didn't know there was a way, a order, you're supposed to wash the dishes, but he taught us, you stack the cups, you stack the plates, you stack the bowls, you have the silverware in another area, pots and pans. First you wash the cups, then you wash the plates, then the bowls, then the silverware, then the pots and pans. Period. I do it to this day. It's crazy. But because I have learned to be so routine in that, there's something about a routine that lets your mind rest. I don't know how many of you know that. That's why crochet is such a stress reliever. That's why certain activities you just can go away. So because I had that training at home in cleaning, my mind rests. I get most of my inspiration for poems when I'm cleaning. So that's what helps me. If I can go away and make dinner for my children and serve them dinner and clean the dishes and sweep and mop the floor and sweep down the steps and clean the bathroom and straighten up their rooms because it's just gotten so messy that they driving me crazy. But if I can do all of that, when I have something on my mind, it's gone. Or take a walk. God knows, walking, oh my God, that's therapeutic and, good for your body. Working out, same thing. If I can do any of those things, that works for me, And so that's what, as a creative person though, as you're reaching, because the reaching is going to bring in new challenges. And new challenges, there's always a level of stress to them. There's always a level of stress. You can't be a punk though in your life. You can't say, I don't want to do that because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to know how to do it. I don't know if everything's going to work out. Shut up. Reach. Grow. You can figure it out. The human being is the highest form of intelligence on the planet, even though we ain't reflecting that right now. I ain't going to say nothing else. But I'm saying, just push yourself, push yourself. And even when you're doing something new and you get to a point that you're frustrated and maybe need to feel like you're going to quit, take a break. Never quit. Just take a break and go back to it, okay? So I hope I've said something in this video to inspire you, to encourage you. That's what my channel is all about: love, encouragement, inspiration. I am going to get to all the things I said I was going to offer. I am. I have so much. I just added more stuff I want to do for everybody to my mission statement yesterday. So just keep creating, just keep moving forward, keep walking, keep living, definitely keep loving. Okay? Love you. Peace.